Welcome to episode 158 of the Necronama.com. The Necronama.com is proud to announce that we've partnered with the Horror Writers Association and the Stanley Hotel and Gemma Amor and Laurel Hightower to bring you the official StokerCon pre-party. We want you to join us on May 10th, 2022 at the iconic Stanley Hotel, where horror authors including Stephen Graham Jones, Gabino Iglesias, Haley Piper, Gemma Amor, and Laurel Hightower will be reading some of their works. Additionally, the No Sleep podcast will perform a 1-hour live version of their award-winning horror fiction podcast. There will be meet and greets, ghost hunting, and a lot of drinking with authors. You're not going to want to miss it. A link to ticket information and room packages is available in the liner notes of this episode. The Necronama.com is now a proud affiliate of Libsyn, one of the top podcast hosting networks in existence. See this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 free months of podcasting services with Libsyn. Get your show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Get critical audience-building stats and all the support you need to sound your best. They even do video. Bring your podcast to life and have your voice heard here, there, everywhere with Libsyn. Check our show notes for the unique promo code and get podcasting. Now in their 18th year, Fright Rags has been bringing you the best in horror apparel and accessories since 2003. Offering a wide range of products for your favorite creature features, slasher flicks, and cult classics. Officially licensed collections include titles like John Carpenter's The Thing, The Evil Dead, Creepshow, Jaws, the Halloween franchise, and so many more. Head on over to fright-rags.com. Make sure to sign up for their SMS and email newsletter to never miss a drop. Listeners get 10% off when they use the code NECRO10, all caps, at checkout. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now. And I have a terrible headache.
And I am Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of the podcast, award-winning scholar. But then again, it's probably all in my head.
There's going to be a lot of those jokes about things in our head, I fear. Let me tell you about the 3 voices in my head that have joined us here today. First up, we have author Gemma Amor, David Cummings, who runs the No Sleep podcast, and Brandon Boone, who is a musician and also does the soundtracks for the No Sleep podcasts. Welcome to the show, everyone.
And I'll just say welcome times 3.
All right, so whoever wants to go first, why don't you tell our listeners a bit about yourselves?
Well, no one's stepping up, so I'll introduce myself. I'm David Cummings. I'm the host of the No Sleep podcast, and it's a pleasure to be here with my 2 compatriots, Gemma and Brandon. The No Sleep podcast, for those who don't know, is a horror anthology podcast. We've been at it for over 10 years now, and we tell scary stories, and we do them kind of sort of like the old-time radio shows where we try to create spooky atmospheres, and we've got a great cast of voice actors, and we have outstanding musical scores created by Mr. Brandon Boone. And so, yeah, it's a great show. It's fun to listen to. We've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of audio horror storytelling in our archives. So if you haven't yet listened, please check us out. I think you will be chilled and thrilled and be unable to sleep at night.
Love it. All right, Brandon, Gemma, who wants to go next?
I'm not going next.
Well, Brandon, that makes sense.
As David mentioned, I write the music for the No Sleep podcast. Pleasure to be here again. If you guys remember the last time I was here for the Lighthouse, it was a good time. But yeah, I just write the music. It's pretty simple.
All right.
Last but certainly not least, Gemma.
I like bringing up the rear. I am Gemma Amor. I am an award-nominated horror author, sometimes occasional podcaster, and more recently illustrator, which is kind of a new thing that I'm enjoying. I wrote some books. They're good. You should buy them. I've had half a martini, and this is not my first rodeo, so I know you don't mind.
We encourage people to get drunk on this show, so have more. Have
this
many,
show's
many
the reason
more.
why I drink. So,
for anyone who didn't skip the ads at the beginning of the episode, we have the big fundraiser coming up at the Stanley Hotel on May 10th, Spirited Giving. It's a night with 5 authors and a live performance by No Sleep, and some meet and greets and ghost hunting and drinking with authors and watching James wander around outside at 2:00 in the morning. You know, it's going to be a fun time. But I want to start with you guys. And one, I want to thank you for being involved with this fundraiser, which is raising funds for the Glen Haven Area Volunteer Fire Department. It means a lot to me that you guys were willing to bring No Sleep and do the live performance there. And I think it's going to be just an off the charts amazing event. So if you don't mind, David, I'd like to have you maybe tell people a little bit about your live performances and like just what to expect.
Right. Yeah. We this will be our second time at the Stanley Hotel. We did a show there in October of 2019. Haven't toured since 2019 for some reason. I can't remember why we stopped, but so yeah, we were at the Stanley, and so basically our live show and our part in this great fundraising event is we're going to have an hour-long slot. We're going to be doing 2 original scripts, one by Dee Williams, who is an excellent writer, and one by Gemma Amor, who is a writer. No, come on, I'm just kidding.
She's shit. I don't know why. Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be great. I'll be there, of course, with who do we have with us? We have Jessica McAvoy, a longtime fan favorite. We have Nicole Goodnight, another fan favorite, wonderful actor. We have Sarah Thomas, who will be also rejoining us at the Stanley. She came up and joined us in October of 2019. And the great Graham Rowitz, famed of screen and stage, will be flying out as well. And so those will be the 5 actors, and tucked in behind us in the shadows will be Brandon Boone performing the music live as we do our scripts. And so the scripts are going to be they're done again very, very much sort of radio drama style, fully scripted. I trigger some sound effects that one of our producers, Phil Mikulski, creates for us, and so it's a fun time. We try to make them scary, of course, but we have a lot of fun on stage. There's a lot of humor involved. And so it's, we'll have a lot of fun doing these 2 scripts and just interacting with the audience. And I think it's going to be a great time to fit in some of this stuff along with all the authors and other people on stage with us.
Yeah, it should be great. I'm definitely looking forward to that part. So I love that you're joining us.
I was going to say I just finished killing David in the script yesterday.
Whoa, spoiler.
I hope you enjoy how you die. Everybody dies, Brandon. Everybody knows that. That's the whole point. That's why we come.
Well,
Can you kill me off screen? No.
I sit in the back behind Dave, like as David mentioned, and I just press my space bar and let the music play. And I just sit there and just wait until it's over. No, I've got a bunch of stuff going on in the back where I have different loops going, and I play some live stuff on top of it. It's a lot of fun. It's honestly my favorite thing to do. I really miss the live performances.
Awesome. So, Gemma, you're also reading at the event. We have 5 authors: Stephen Graham Jones, yourself, Haley Piper, Laurel Hightower, and Gabino Iglesias. It should just be like that. That's one of those things, like, this is just like this crazy idea I had that actually somehow worked out. Mm-hmm. And for anyone who doesn't know, I stacked this event with like 5 of my favorite authors just so that I could hear them do readings. And that's literally true. So, but we're going to raise money in the process as well. So that's fantastic.
Well, luckily for you, my publishers just told me that I can sneak preview the new book. So you'll be getting a reading from my newest one, which is called Full Immersion. And that's not out until September. So yeah, that's scary. And if you all hate it and it's shit, I should go and cry.
All right, so let's get into Malignant. I kind of suggested this, but Brandon, you jumped right on it. You were like, "Oh, that sounds awesome." Do any of you have strong feelings about this film?
I have very strong feelings.
I'm waiting for Gemma to do it. Come on, Gemma.
I'm gonna let David and Brandon go first though, because I'm gonna save my strong feelings in case I change my mind listening to their feelings, if that makes sense.
Boo. I don't want any I want unbiased Gemma without any influence by anybody else. You said earlier you were chomping at the bit to tell us. You can change your opinion of the film based off of information, but I want your information first.
Okay.
Because I was so intrigued at how excited you were to talk about it.
I'm not entirely sure what the fuck I watched. That's like the biggest takeaway was, what is this? Like, what is going on? I still don't really know whether I need other people to speak first so that I can formulate this properly.
All right,
I have notes. I have notes. I have 4 pages of notes. It's not like I've come unprepared, but I'm just like, what was that film?
Gemma, I think if you really examine the film, it's sort of like a cosmic gumbo that moves to the rhythm of jazz.
I was drinking.
You killed her. Amazing. Nobody's ever died on our show before.
I really like the word gumbo as well. It's a great word. It's kind of cosmic gumbo. That's your new band name, David. That's
Thank you. I made that line up myself, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Oh, you fucking kidding me? I hate it when you have your little boys club and I'm not invited. They've clearly.
How many I think you should leave references we can sneak in here.
I hate this. I've only watched like 4 episodes of I Think You Should Leave, and I feel very left out right now.
Oh, whose fault is that?
Well, yeah, Gemma's gotten a little tongue-tied here, so I will. I'll kick it off and share some of my thoughts about the movie. I went into it knowing a little bit about it. I had some friends who watched it, and they kind of were very lukewarm about it. So my expectations were moderate. Of course, kind of created by James Wan, who, you think about his filmography. The guy created Saw, I was going to say Jaws, Saw, Insidious, The Conjuring. I mean, despite what the sequels and franchises they became, like those 3 films are, clearly up there in the pantheon of horror films. So this guy knows how to create horror. And yeah, I'm not sure I fully got where he was going, got the sort of point that he was going for with this film. And I found that the writing was really just in terms of the characters that surrounded the Maddie and the main gist of the story. I found it really sort of weak writing, and I'd be curious to know the process, because I think this is something where James Wan probably came up with the idea of the main character and the big twists and all that, and then he had somebody write the screenplay for it, because there's stuff that's I found quite weak. But yeah, I mean, it certainly is a film that's going to catch you off guard if you're not aware of what's coming in the third act.
I feel like, how do I feel, boys? How do I feel about this? I can't deal with these things unless I do them chronologically, because my brain is like that. So when I started watching the movie, which I paid £13 for, by the way, because England is great at the moment. Bearing in mind, I just spent loads of money on it. I started watching it, and apart from the fact that I got really sidetracked by the fact that one of the nurses in the mental hospital right at the beginning is the hot chick from The Mummy Returns, which really threw me for ages. And I was like, why not have her in it? I wasn't sure it was the right movie, if that makes sense. Like, it was so... It looked like a daytime TV movie. So then I thought, maybe it's a flashback, or maybe it's someone in a movie watching. You know how sometimes it opens and you see something that's really campy and really like badly lit, and like you're like, oh, and then it turns out there's like a character watching TV within the movie, and then it pans out. Do you know what I mean? Like I thought it was I thought that was it, and then so I scrolled forward for the first half an hour on the like zoomy forward thing, remote control. That's it, and just to check that it was the right film with the right cast members. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So then I went back and started it from the beginning because I was so immediately thrown off by everything, by like the tone, the acting, the way it looked. I just wasn't expecting it to be like that at all. It was like this full on, you guys probably don't know some of the Aussie and like New Zealand soaps, but in the UK we used to watch Home and Away and Neighbours, and there was one particular New Zealand soap called Shortland Street, which was like, do you have soaps? Soaps are like TV shows that come on every day, and they normally based around like a family or the street or whatever.
Yeah,
that is so okay, I don't know whether you have a word for it. Shut up. We call them soaps, and and it felt like an episode of Shortland Street. I was so confused. I just didn't know. I genuinely thought it was going to be a piss take or a pastiche, or it was just so campy and over the top. And then I kind of sat and I waited for like 20 minutes for the tone to shift, and it never did. And I was watching it with my husband. He kind of reluctantly gets dragged into these things. I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch this movie tonight, and then he'll maybe like watch 10 or 15 minutes and either fall asleep or leave the room. And like at 17 minutes in, he just looked at me and I wrote it down in my notes. He just went, is this an actual film? It's just like, I think so. I was very confused for the whole thing. All right, and I wrote notes as well, just to finish that up, because it's the setup is really heavy-handed right from the word go, right? And in my notes I wrote, and I sent a picture to Brandon yesterday, I wrote, pregnant woman, oh no. Miscarriage, oh no. Abusive boyfriend, oh no. And then I wrote all of my triggers in big capital letters, right? So that was my initial reaction to the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say when my wife watched it with me, because here it was on a streaming service, and when it was over, we both looked at each other. I turned the TV off. Like normally we'll talk about a movie after we finish watching it. I turned the TV off. We looked at each other, and my wife was thinking the same thing I was thinking. She looked at me. She's like, well, if they had, I was like, no. Well, if they had, no. What the fuck did we just watch? And her reaction was kind of, well, I was like, no. We normally will have a discussion about how this could have been done better, how this could have been done better. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It just wasn't for us, because that's one of the things I've gotten into the past few years of like, if I didn't like something, it doesn't mean it was bad. If I like something, doesn't mean it was good. It means it was for me or it wasn't for me, because there are people who love this movie. And I definitely don't want to shit on their reaction.
I feel like I'm missing something. Like, you know how somebody sometimes tells a joke and you don't understand it because you're British and you don't have an American sense of humor and you're not quite as quick-witted as your friends. And
I think we all understand that.
And then you feel really dumb afterwards. I felt a bit like, is there some like thing? Is this thing I'm not getting here that everybody else gets? And now I'm starting to think like, actually, maybe is this a work of like complete genius? And is it meant to be a piss take of the genre? And is it meant to be deliberately in a certain way, like Cabin in the Woods, except not as cleverly done? Like there are so many little horror Easter eggs throughout the whole thing, like the dippy bird on the detective's desk from Alien, and the more I watched, I think I saw the tricycle from Saw at one point, like in the attic, and I was like, oh, is this one of those super nerdy things where he's made a movie that he just wants to make for the sake of it, and he's made it in a certain stylistic way to fuck with us all while he's secretly at home laughing his tits off? Like, is that what this is? Like, I feel like
I would say it's half of that. And I'll get to why when Brandon's done, because I want to go last. Because I'm the James Wan apologist who loves this film.
So I really liked it too. context is important. When you first mentioned this movie and I like jumped at, I was like, oh yeah, let's do that. And I was all excited. The first time I saw this movie, I had been awake for like 36 hours. I took like this long flight, and then I got to where I was going and I crashed and watched this movie. And I just remember the next day waking up like, oh my God, that movie was awesome. And I watched it again in preparation for this. I didn't like it as much, but I still really liked it. But I do think it is, it's meant to be campy in that way. And it's meant to be like a nod to all the giallo and all that kind of stuff and all the old school films. And there's bits of the score that hint to it as well. But
and the lighting as well, especially when
the lighting
Malignant's on screen and it's green or red, and it's like, and then I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah.
And so it definitely felt like that was the point of the movie. So for me, I didn't really try to dig too deep into it. I just sat back and enjoyed it for what I felt it was. And I really liked it. I liked the twist. It was also a really cool excuse to have like this weird contorted villain running around.
Yes.
Which I thought was really cool and really creepy.
I was reading that she's an actual contortionist, which I thought was even cooler, because I'm like, so many filmmakers would have just like, let's run the film backwards so that it moves weird, like
I've just got her name here somewhere. She's amazing.
I was afraid it was going to be CGI or something horrible like that, but no.
Yeah. And it made it so much cooler. Like even like quick shots of the villain's hands, they're always like upside down because, reaching behind, as we're going to talk about. And
sorry.
But
I'm such a child. You should ban me from this episode.
You've come to the right place.
That's what she said.
That's weird. They never said that to me. Anyway, so I am a James Wan love. Like he's a god to me. And like Saw is one of my favorite films of all time. Even Dead Silence, I think, is just fucking amazing. And so for me, I think I came into this watching it differently than a lot of people anyway, because I came in very focused on James Wan. And when you come into a film and you're watching the director instead of the film, you get a different experience. People do it all the time with directors that they like. But it's not something I normally do. And so it was weird to me that I do it with Wan, and I'd never noticed it before. But there's so many shots that are very, very Saw shots and very Insidious shots.
Right.
And that fingerprint is just all over it, that it's Wan. And I'm going to talk about the very, very ending at some point here. But I came to the conclusion that I came to because it's Wan. And so I'm kind of wondering if I loved this movie more than others solely because I'm a James Wan fanboy. And like, if somebody else made this, would I be as forgiving? I don't know.
I don't know, but like, I also feel like stylistically, he's kind of, there are moments in, which is the one where, it's really creepy. It's not the one with Ethan. Oh my God. I need to not drink martinis before I come on this. The one where they get in the paranormal experts, and Lin Shaye is like the
Insidious.
Insidious. And then they kind of, so it's like all these creepy things happening, right? And it's a possession movie and whatever. But then all of a sudden you're in like this third dimension, and it's all very weird and trippy and quite stagey. And I felt like that. I was like, oh, okay, that's quite like in the scenes in this movie where she's seeing it from the perspective of Malignant and the walls start to melt and crumble. I was like, he likes that kind of, there's certain little things that he likes to do.
Yeah.
And also the opening credit music was like almost like the score for Saw. Like I thought, I was like, oh, okay.
There's beats that hit so closely at points that I swore I was listening to. It's called Hello's Up, but the Saw theme.
Yeah.
Which is
interesting. It's a different composer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know your thoughts, Brendan, because my wife and I watched it, and we were like, this music just does not fit this movie. And I was not aware that it's, as you said, that it's sort of maybe it is a very James Wan kind of soundtrack, but it just seems so big and so heavy, I suppose, both musically and just even the volume. Like, it just seems so intense. And did you find that incongruous in any way, or was that just part of the whole vibe of the show?
I thought it was weird. I even looked it up just to make sure. because watching it, I was thinking about the same thing. Like, man, this really sounds like a Saw soundtrack. But I've listened to the score before, and I know it was Joseph Bishara, or however you say his last name, and I know it wasn't Charlie Clouser. So I was like, is he trying to? It does feel weird because there's some music that is kind of like slow and creepy, like something from The Conjuring or Insidious. And then anytime there's like the police stuff or action, it's like straight out of Saw, and it's like that kind of grinding, thumping, soundtrack. And I do think that kind of works in a way because the movie, when they're in the house, it feels like Insidious or something. It's all really dark and, creepy. And then when they're at the precinct, it seems like a Saw movie. It just feels like they're like mashing the two together almost.
Don't forget the creamery, the creamery, which made me laugh every time I saw it. I was like, I cannot take a movie seriously if it's got creamery written on the walls.
But it definitely felt like Joseph Bishara was doing his take on a Saw movie or something like that. I definitely agree.
Well, and Gemma, you mentioned was Juan just like having fun at our expense and sitting at home laughing?
I think there
are parts where he definitely was. And I mentioned this in our conversation before we came on, but that part where they send the sister to a freaking abandoned hospital in the middle of the night and nothing bad happens to her.
I'm gonna reiterate what I said in the chat. I could not watch that scene, but not because it was like scary or anything, because she literally drives her car within an inch of the edge of a fucking huge cliff and parks it there. And it's like, dude, it's a massive fucking hospital. It'll have a car park. Park there. It'll be nearer the front door. Like, why have you just parked on the edge of a cliff? And I was so cross about it that I couldn't focus on what she was doing, apart from the fact that she was in an abandoned, creepy hospital looking for patient notes. And then when she found the patient notes and pulled them out of the drawer, they were like perfectly pressed and brand new and clean, and they didn't have a spot of mildew on them, even though they'd been in there for 30 years. There was no bird shit or anything. And I was really cross. And then I started to thought, that's what made me think, like, I think he's having fun with us and playing with us, because it was so silly. It was so silly. Like, there isn't a single character in this movie that turns a fucking light on. It pisses me off so much. Like the house, the creamery, the hospital, like there are light switches. Like at one point there's a character and she thinks someone's in her house. It's the main character. I've forgotten her name because I'm cross. And the back door is swinging open, right? Like, la, 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 there's a murderer in my house. And she doesn't turn the light on. Like, I don't understand.
Gemma, it could have been worse. She could have said, hello? Is anybody out there?
Like, I don't mind that so much because that's the kind of shit I would probably do. But like, it's I've spent many a night on my own in my house, if my husband's away or whatever. And let me tell you, I will not be able to fall asleep until every light in the entire house is on. I just can't. If I'm on my own or if I'm on my own with my kid, like all the doors are triple locked. All the curtains are drawn. There's a moment where her husband has been brutally murdered, and about 2 days later, she's kind of wandering around with a big stack of laundry. Like all the fucking curtains are open, none of the lights are on. It's like, and that's what makes me think, because the other movies, the other James Wan movies, there was quite a play for realism, and maybe it's just better writing, or maybe this is deliberate. Like I think when I got to the big reveal, then I was like, oh, okay, finally I'm on board with this, and I was enjoying it. But I felt like everything up to that point was either just bad or it was deliberately done in a certain way. And I can't figure out which is what.
I mean, for me, I think it's deliberate. I think that he's doing a lot of throwbacks to the Giallos. I never say it correctly, so feel free to attack me online. But I think that like these movies that he loved growing up, he did kind of an homage to them, but also kind of made fun of things like never turning on the lights. But I feel like it's presented in a way where it's like you either see it or you don't. Like it's not concentrated on. Like there's not a character constantly reaching for the light switch and everybody stops her. you know?
Right.
So I think that it's there to entertain us, but also not interfere with the story. So I do think he's making fun of some of it.
Because some of it was actually very good, and there's a really good little moment where she's in the house at the beginning. No, he horrible boyfriend Derek, who's set up to be a complete asshole, so that you don't mind if he's brutally murdered within the first 10 minutes of the film. And he's downstairs whapping off or doing whatever he's doing. He's watching TV, isn't he? And
I took a drink and she almost killed me. Jeez.
And then he gets up because there's a creepy noise and it's dark, and there's Malignant sitting in the chair, right? And then he turns the light on because he's got brains, and Malignant's gone. But then there's this beautiful little shot of like the seat cushion expanding back to its normal because somebody heavy has been sitting on it. I loved that. And I was like, how can a little moment like that's so good be in this film? I don't understand.
But that's also part of like the nonsense of them. There's so much stuff like that where you're like, how does this work? What is Gabriel? How is it like this entity that's detached from her and doing all of this stuff, but also still just being part of her? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like if there was no one sitting in the couch, obviously there's like this, it's felt like another Insidious or Conjuring kind of moment where the house is like this super spooky place. That's why I didn't try to dig too deep on that. I just thought like, oh, well, that's meant to just be a spooky thing.
I dig deep on everything, literally everything, every single facet of life. And also, can I say as a Brit, how big your houses are in America? Like your houses are big. Like you could not make this movie in the UK, because if you tried to make a movie in the UK where like you're in one room and then there's a creepy guy in your house and you don't know about it, you'd know about it within about 30 seconds of your front door opening, because it's like there is no space in a British house. It really made me laugh.
That's what my wife and I were saying, that house in Seattle is probably like $1.5 million.
Oh,
so
easily.
Yeah.
How does she afford that? We see her coming home in scrubs. So
Yeah.
is she a nurse? Is she a doctor? Like that's the kind of stuff that bugs us.
I'm just alone in my 6-bedroom house.
Yeah. That she goes back to after her husband's had like his head snapped clean in half.
She didn't like
And
him.
no funeral.
Well, if she didn't like him, she wouldn't have been with him.
I was kidding.
Yeah. Could you tell? This is the crossest I've ever been doing one of these. Like normally I'm really like enthused or really like yay.
What you don't know from the group chat is that Brandon and I just sit around trying to figure out what movie will piss you off the most. So that's not true, but
Guys,
we should do that next
we
time.
We could have done Batman. I mean, come on. Like I had lots to say about Batman.
Oh, I'll do Batman all day.
We're not allowed to talk about Batman with you.
I know.
No.
I'm sorry. Are we talking about the Batman?
Sorry,
Batman.
David. Sorry. Oh God, I did a faux pas.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if we were talking about the 60s version or we were talking about the Michael Keaton one.
Oh, I was talking about Batman.
No, I mean from Gemma. Like I wasn't sure because
that's Batman.
We'll be talking about Eartha Kitt's neck, or we're going to be talking about I don't know. If we get into the Batman, we're talking about Zoe Kravitz's neck at that point.
Good God.
I didn't see much of her neck in this, quite honestly. She's quite short though, isn't she? She's like it was a lot of down shots, so you couldn't see her neck as much.
This is a joke that requires people to listen to like 4 episodes to follow, right? You have
David,
to listen to Batman Returns, then you have to go.
David, James and Don had Josh Rubin on the show.
I had nothing to do with that conversation.
Okay.
On tape.
I was not talking about the neck.
They had Josh Rubin on the show to talk about Batman Returns. And it was quickly apparent. I keep talking about this every time I come on the show because I just find it so funny. It became quickly apparent that Michelle Pfeiffer was obviously an awakening for them when they watched this film. And they must have spent maybe 15 minutes just talking about Michelle Pfeiffer's neck as Catwoman in that movie. And I literally could not stop laughing.
It was when she was Selena Kyle. There's a difference.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. You definitely weren't involved. Okay.
No, I wasn't the one fawning over a neck. It was the
I shit you not, though. There was literally about 5 minutes where you were all talking about like the milky white expanse of her throat and how it was a real formative moment for you growing up. and then in the next episode, like you and Brandon and talking about mermaids and whacking off in the shed, and I was just like,
Okay, that's what the movie was about. The movie was about whacking off to mermaids. Thank you. Poor David. He's like, what did I come in here for? Why am I here today?
That's what.
Yes, and if
That's why
anybody
you weren't
wants to
allowed on
know,
that lighthouse episode.
look, the mermaids that Christopher Columbus was referring to were manatees. So I don't want to get into what he was fantasizing about in his journals. So
I think that's very. I think that's very sexist. I think there should be personities. Just if we're gonna level the playing field here, I am the only girl. You know.
How about this? They're humanities.
Oh, the humanities.
Oh boy.
I love that. I'm never going to be able to look at one again. Oh, the humanity.
What has happened here?
All right, so no, there were some other things that bothered me, and I'm glad that you pointed this out, Gemma. As far as the lights, right? There were a series of things that were happening in this movie that made me go like, "What are you doing? Like this doesn't make sense." And it played into the conversation my wife and I had, a few days after we watched the movie, which was, okay, she's in the hospital. No one thought to check the back of her head at all to see if, maybe do a CT scan, maybe do an MRI.
After it was bounced off a wall.
There's blood everywhere. Maybe I should check for a malignant sentient tumor that kills everybody.
I was angry at that moment. I'm like, why would you not check? Because, I'm no stranger to hospitals, but I'm pretty sure if someone has broken into a house and, you got at least one person who's been, dismembered or destroyed the way that they were, and you have another person who has a head injury, the protocol is typically to check them out for, concussion. And that would involve a few tests. And the one thing I did laugh about this second viewing was when her sister's in the hospital and she's like, "Oh, where am I? You're in the hospital." No shit.
I'd love to see a movie where the sibling is just really unsympathetic and the patient wakes up and says, "Where am I?" And someone else just goes, "Thailand." Just like something really left field and really fucks with their head.
You're in the creamery.
They were in the creamery. What is a creamery? Can somebody explain this to me? Because over here, no, but like...
So when two people really love each other.
Wow, Jesus Christ. Who said it has to be two?
I was going to say,
I was trying to keep this at an introductory level, but
well, no. When two people really like each other, sometimes they go out for ice cream. What are you talking about, James?
An unspecified number of people who may like each other. Seriously though, is that where you make cream, or because over here we have sherry, which is called Harvey's Bristol Cream, and I'm pretty sure we have a creamery, but it's for making sherry. Anyone?
the ones
it's ice cream. I mean, at least from what I've known,
it's
or you make cheese, you make butter,
butter, cheese. Yeah, butter, cheese, and ice cream. That's the stuff.
So they do that in farms, like milkmaids and shit with milk.
Gemma, I don't know what century you're in, but.
I'm just sitting here picturing Michelle Pfeiffer slowly working a milk churn.
Wow. With her neck. Anyway.
A creamy white neck.
What'd you call it? A creamy white expanse? Is that what you called it?
That's what you said, not me. I was paraphrasing.
Oh, I'm going to steal that. If I did say it, I'm going to claim it. If I didn't, I'm still going to claim it.
Michelle Pfeiffer, if you're listening to this, I do apologize on behalf of my colleagues.
She quit listening to us when we dropped the Batman Returns episode.
Look, this is a Michelle Pfeiffer friendly show.
Oh my.
No Michelle Pfeiffers were harmed in the making of this episode.
That we know of.
I think
speaking of... sorry.
I was just going to say, I have an explanation for why they didn't examine the back of her head in the hospital. It's very simple. The 42 pounds of hair that the wig she was wearing no medical instrument could penetrate that amount of hair.
That was a wig, wasn't it? That was a wig.
That's all I kept thinking. Like, I was gonna ask when you guys figured out the twist, because I figured out pretty early on, because I just kept thinking that she has so much goddamn hair. Like, why did she have all this hair?
Also, because I think I've seen her in Peaky Blinders, and I know what her like more natural hair looks like. It felt like an odd decision to give her a wig, and it was clearly a wig. Also, can we have a note for, like, apart from the fact that I hate using pregnant women and baby loss as a trope in horror movies. So I think that may have kind of put me against the film a little bit to begin with, because I just felt like I got it. By the end, it was explained that, like, he was feeding off the energy of the fetuses, and but like, I hate it. But if you're pregnant, and she was quite clearly pregnant, she did a fair bit of running around in a pregnant state, and this happens a lot in horror movies. And I just like to say, there are some women out there who have babies and who carry big bumps and who are also extremely fit and healthy and probably go jogging and weightlifting or whatever, but there's not many. And the majority of us, when you're that pregnant, you literally swell up and lie down and eat shit, and that's all you do. You don't run around. I suppose if you're in danger, you probably might try a little weak shuffle, but like, the amount of mobility that they think heavily pregnant women have always really grinds my gears. It's like, there's a list of things that you watch in movies that grind your gears, and my top one is cups and containers that clearly have no liquid in them. So when people are drinking from them, it's like, I can tell there's no fucking coffee in that coffee cup, and I cannot take this film seriously now. Like, and then pregnant women being portrayed unrealistically is another one for me. It's a real bugbear, and I'm like, dude, like, it makes me cross. They can't run very well, pregnant ladies, just as an FYI.
Can I ask a pregnancy question?
You may.
When you're pregnant and you're lying down on your side and then you wake up and you sit up, does the baby shift to the side of your body like it did for her? Because there was one scene where she sat up in bed and her prosthetic baby bump just sort of slid off to the side.
Oh no!
I love it. What's the movie where have you seen Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Oh yeah.
And, where Blinken dresses up as a woman, and he keeps losing track of his tits, and they like migrate all over his body, and at one point he's like punching them back into place. Or The Moving Mole, which I love that film so much. But there's that comedic thing as well, right? So the other note that I've got here, as I'm going through my anally retentive chronological notes, is James Wan really likes comedy characters. He likes comedy kind of stooge-like characters in his films. Yes. And I find that jarring sometimes. Again, I found that jarring in Insidious, although people love that film. I love parts of that film. I find the comedic bits jarring, so I don't like those bits. Like Lee Whannell and the other guy who's the paranormal pairing. It's kind of quite poltergeist, and I get it, but like, there's a character in this and she's completely wasted, and she's one of the police force, and she's got glasses, and she's got a crush on the lead detective. Oh yeah. And she's kind of set up as this comedy stooge sort of character that they don't really do anything with. No. Which I thought nerdy,
was cute girl kind of thing.
Yeah. And I was like, is she going to have a makeover and look gorgeous? Like, is she? Are they priming to take off her spectacles and she'll be really sexy? But no, that didn't happen.
Not the girl, you know what I mean? The paint on her overalls.
Yeah, I love that film so much. It's so bad. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, there's again, and it makes it really hard to take this seriously. These sort of weird characters that are just kind of.
Well, I was going to say that to me, that was one of the things I was alluding to, was just like these characters. So you have the hunky cop who's named Kokomo or something like that. And so he's a good looking guy. He's got a brassy partner, African-American woman who's so tough and seen it all that she can be in the autopsy room sucking on a lollipop.
Oh, on a lollipop. What was that? That was a clear piss. Like, I thought that must have been a nod to something. It was so deliberate. Like the
Kojak or something.
Kojak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, like you said, the nerdy tech girl who's in love with the cop. And there was one line where the cop says something about, after the second murder, he says something like, yeah, we're looking for our second half or something. And she just goes, yeah, aren't we all? With doughy eyes.
I'm like, harassment. Get away from me.
That's why I think you're not meant to take it seriously, because it's so on the nose, all of it. Like,
right.
But what if it isn't? What if it isn't? What if it's just really bad?
No, there's literally a scene
good.
where a guy's window is open and there's footprints of water on his floor into his closet. He looks in the closet like, well, nothing there. I'm probably all right. And just goes right back to the room. Like he just wipes up the water and goes on with his day.
Oh, wait, that's interesting.
There's that, but then there's also the photographs that his name, it was Kikoa. Kikoa and Regina, the two detectives. But Kikoa is handed he gets the photograph of the patient from the crime scene, right? From one of the books. Right. And he gives it to Bosco or Basco. I can't remember the guy's name. And he does like the age progression thing. And I'm looking at the photo. I'm like, that looks just like her.
Look how much hair that kid has.
There's no difference. Like the child
Why is she
version
wearing a wig?
Those are the same picture.
Yeah, and then they pull up did you find the age? Did you get the age progression? So, yeah, put it on your desk. I thought that's why you called that woman in. I'm like, you bastards.
Also, badly, like, that's another
worst
thing on my
ever.
list. Another thing on my list is, when you're watching a movie and it's a really good movie, and then they look at a family photo and it's the worst photoshopped image you've ever seen in your life. And there was a thread on Twitter the other day of the worst photoshopped family photos in movies, and it's fucking genius, because it's like, you spent all this money on this film, right? You spent hundreds of millions of dollars on the special effects, on the scripts, on the rest of it. You couldn't just get them all in a room and take a real fucking picture together. Or it's like a still from the movie that they've frozen and then they cut out and they hope you won't notice. Things. My life is a constant succession of things that annoy me.
I had this horrible problem where every time that Regina, was that her name, was on the screen, all I could think was, somebody desperately wanted to cast Wanda Sykes.
Wanda Sykes.
Damn you, James.
I thought the same.
Yep, I thought the same thing.
I'm so glad it wasn't just
wrote that down. I was like, okay. Wish version of Wanda Sykes. Gotcha.
But I was like, this is so weird. Like, did they convince somebody that they got Wanda Sykes? They're like, no, see, look, that's her. Like, it's so strange to me. Nothing against the actress. It was just really, it just kept pulling me out.
So on the nose.
On the screen.
Yeah.
The actors were an odd mix though as well. Like, again, like I do find it really odd that they cast somebody from The Mummy Returns, which is probably one of the most recognizable movies of the last 25, 30 years. Don't tell me otherwise, because I really feel old enough, right? They could have used her character, and then there was Dr. Weaver was played by some random Brit. And I know, like, she had a very plummy sort of British accent, which apparently is quite an undesirable thing. But anytime I see another British person on screen, I'm always almost immediately like, she's from Slough or Reading. It's just like, which won't mean much to any of you, but it does to me. And it was really odd choice to, like, the casting was odd. Did you not think? Like, apart from the lead actress, who was reasonably well known, I didn't really recognize.
She was cast for her neck strength to hold up the wig.
Stop talking about necks. You are obsessed with necks. Like,
I threw that in just to see what you would do. But
any excuse to talk about necks.
I tried to hide it in the wig joke, but you got me.
But do you know what I mean? Like, again, as someone of one's caliber,
I didn't know any of the actors, to be honest.
He could pretty much hire anyone, right? Surely, with, I don't know what the budget was for the film, or just thought it was odd.
The only person I recognized that in this movie was what's her name, Zoe Bell. That's in the prison.
Oh,
from
she's
Death Proof and all that.
The tough chick in the prison, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked the prison scene. I have to admit, I did like the prison outbreak scene. That tickled me quite a lot.
This is a great scene.
It is a
Yeah,
good scene.
I think that the movie is at its best when it's just full on Gabriel just slaughtering people, because it's so bizarre looking.
Even like Gabriel's choice of weapons, like that's a really cool weapon.
It is,
and then I feel like it's this thing they concentrate on, and then they just kind of like forget about it. Like it's still there, but it doesn't. Like when Jason kills somebody, even like 10 movies later, the machete still means something, you know? Mm-hmm. And with this, I felt like they had this cool ass weapon and they make a big deal out of it. And then they just like forget about it. I thought that was really fucking weird. I kept expecting it to play into the end.
Well, it didn't matter anymore once he killed all the doctors, right? Or once Gabriel killed once the doctors were dead, that was the purpose of the weapon.
He got revenge on everybody.
Right. But it would have been good to have it as the weapon that would have killed Gabriel, you know, as far as like having the sister or the mom, not, you know, or adopted mother, somebody just bam, stabbing that way. Which I still think it was odd to have that. Oh, we're going to have this moment suspended in, you know, whatever, another realm where me and my adopted sister are going to talk it out.
I again, and also like the whole psychic thing, right? If I was a doctor, just going to posit this as a theory. If I was a doctor working in a creepy ass medical facility on the edge of a fucking cliff, and I had a patient who had a malignant sentient tumor on the back of her body that could control things with the power of its mind and communicate to me only via the radio. If I had a patient like that, just let's say, and I then excised the said tumor and performed probably what would be the most significant surgery of my entire life and probably my entire career. If it kind of fast forwarded 30 years and something weird and creepy happened, that meant I had to then go and look up those patient notes because I had forgotten about the weird, creepy patient with the fucking sentient tumor shaped like a man stuck to the back of her head. Do you know what I mean?
They all just kind of blend in together after a while.
You know, like it's just right up there with the guy that had elephant trunk stuck to his forehead. It just she would remember that. It makes
me question what else was taking place in that hospital, because their solution was to close it up inside of the skull and then we'll adopt her out. Problem solved.
There's nothing wrong with this one, boys. She's fine. That's probably pat her on the back of the head.
That's one of my favorite bits in the whole movie is when they're showing like the surgery, and, you know, and it's like really gruesome and they're slicing off the arms and all this kind of stuff. And then like it just shows them take like two fingers and just kind of push it back into the skull and then cap it. It's just like this really gentle movement of just kind of tapping Gabriel back into the skull, cap it over.
Just jamming some socks in a full sock drawer. Just stuff it right in there. Well, I think she must have been doing some serious surgery at that place because she had more awards than Michael Jordan on her show.
She had a lot of awards, right? Like, what do you get awards for as a doctor? Like,
as a doctor, yeah. We're going to give you this huge gold, you know, what do you call it, caduceus things that can be sharpened into a sword.
She just got them all for herself. They all just say, like, goodest doctor.
She's been buying one with each paycheck.
Right.
Goes down to the local trophy store.
I only want awards that can be multi-purposed as murder weapons, please. Thanks very much.
What's it this time, Dr. Weaver? You know what? I need to have second goodest doctor this time. You know, I don't want to get a swelled head about this.
Swelled head? And then you have,
I again, I'm staying out of that.
I'm pretty sure the only word left once the murder weapon is like broken apart, it just says excellent on it, I think. Like that's the only remnant of whatever that award was for.
Excellent. That's the real Bill and Ted voice. You know, has anyone here seen please tell me yes, you've seen Basket Case, right?
Oh yeah. A long time.
Yeah. I really, there was a moment when you first saw the tumor on her back, and I really wanted there to be some, like, I thought if he was going to go for it, then let's go for it. And I really wanted there to be a crossover with Basket Case somehow, and like there to be like another patient, do you know what I mean? Like I would have loved that, like some reference to it, or like a sequel. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love that film. It's such a good movie. Like,
my wife Kelly loves that movie. When that scene came about, she was like, "It is Basket Case. I told you."
Yeah, I think that's why I guessed it reasonably early on, but not as early as Brandon did. Because I was just like, I was so distracted by all the things I didn't like. I couldn't focus on the plot. But Basket Case 2 has 2 sentient malignant tumors shagging, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Oh my.
It's
as
amazing.
long as they're not sheep, that's all that matters.
No, it is. I'm going to put in a request that we watch that in Colorado, because it is the funniest shit you will ever see in your entire life. It's amazing. Good times.
So of course that's the big twist everyone talks about, is the creature in the back of her head and all that good stuff. To skip ahead, I want to talk about my theory on the ending, because I want to make sure that we have enough time for you guys to destroy me and tell me why I'm wrong. But it's also why I like this film more than I think a lot of other people do. So the ending that we're presented with is Gabriel, the thing that lives in the back of her head, shoots her sister, kills her birth mom, and then she reveals, ha, 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 I have the same power as you, and I can make you see things that aren't real, Gabriel. And I've defeated you and locked you up in this cage. And this whole ending feels like shit to me. Like, I sat there the first time I watched this going, I loved it up till this point. And then there's this massive character change to me. Like, she's suddenly confident, and she's suddenly the hero, and she's somehow planned this whole thing with this guy who can read her brain, never noticing. And none of this worked for me. And I don't think that's what happened at all. I think what happened is Gabriel fucking won. I think that Gabriel killed the sister, killed the mom, and locked Madison in a cage in her mind, and gave her a reality that made her happy so that she would never question it and fight back. And I think that there's a whole hospital of dead people because Gabriel's out there just fucking slaughtering everyone and having the time of his life. And the biggest thing for me with this is it's the unreliable narrator of us being forced to see it from Madison's point of view. So if she's presented with a reality that she accepts, that's the ending that we see. And so I wanted to talk to you guys and see, do you think that's total bullshit? Do you think it was the happy ending? Because that ending doesn't work for me and I can't accept it. And so this is the only way I've been happy. And when I rewatched it, this was my focal point. Like, I literally sat with every scene with this theory. And when the doctors talked about like Gabriel's powers, that it basically describes this, how he can overtake her and make her see things. And at the end, I was like, the world still melts the same way. If she's in charge of it, we wouldn't see the world melt. Gabriel would see that, but we're not looking at his point of view. And then the very last thing focuses on the lamp, and we get the little staticky sound. And to me, that means she's in a fake world, and that's the tip off that she's not here. There you go. That's my big rant. Feel free to destroy it.
Well, I think there's some good points there. And the thing that I thought is, when I watched the movie, was if the movie did end as literally as most of us took it, in other words, it is Madison's happy ending. What is the fallout from this? Because there are 36 dead cops slaughtered in a precinct. Among, not to mention all the doctors who were killed and everything. There is no way that Madison can, no matter what lawyer she gets, could convince a jury that she somehow is not this psychotic serial killer, and just because she has this weird thing in her brain. Like, so there is no happy ending for her. She's going to prison for a long, long time, if not the death penalty or what have you. So I mean, I do like that idea, James, that yeah, she's the one who's just been, she's living quietly in her own cell, thinking that everything's good. Because if things went out the way they appeared on the screen, the way they set it up, then she's got a lot of problems coming up in her life.
I don't know, though, because like when she was in the hospital at the beginning as a child, she slaughtered about 10 of the hospital staff, and she seemed to be like, they still adopted her out the next day. So she seems to be quite lucky.
I think you all are missing the point. She
A lot of
was a created
those
weapon
awards
by
were
the
for hiding
government.
bodies.
Voldemort made me do it, like it's not a defense in court, is it? I just like, anytime I try and deep dive this film and come up with theories and all the rest of it, I just keep thinking James Wan is literally taking the piss, and then I stop thinking about it, which is the first time I think I've ever reached that conclusion in a movie, that it's a movie that's been deliberately set up for people to not think about. Does that make sense?
Here's my James Wan rebuttal to that. James Wan is utterly fucking obsessed with puppets. Every movie he makes has puppets. He has 2 movies with puppets named Billy on top of it for some fucking reason. He literally makes a puppet in this with her being controlled by Gabriel. I think he ended with a puppet.
Also, the ending's really bizarre and calm, and like the mom kind of like almost resets back. Not the mom, the other person in the hospital. Is that who is she again? The biological mom.
Mother.
The birth mother, right?
Yeah.
Isn't she?
Yeah, she like she smiles at the 2 sisters, and then kind of, I don't know if I'm just reading into it too much, but she kind of like weirdly resets back into like a default position in the bed, which I don't know why, it just kind of struck me as odd, which is why I think you're right, James. Like, it's almost like her reality was, pre-structured, by Gabriel. And also, I don't care how many cops she's killed, like, that room was silent. There's no one like trying to break down the door or come in and get her. Like, it's just like, oh, well, I guess we're just done now. We just all leave and go home because she won. Just felt too calm.
Is that not like a real cop out though? If it's literally all in her head, like isn't this the equivalent of like, it was all a dream?
I mean, Gabriel was literally in her head though.
Yeah. Not at the end. He was kind of peeking out of her head.
I don't think it's a cop-out solely because usually when we say that, it's that we've had to sit through an hour and a half of a movie and then we find out none of it fucking mattered.
Right.
Well, that's essentially what you're saying here.
No, like, it's not that. What I'm saying is
but like,
the last 5 minutes.
If she is a puppet and if she is still in her own head and Gabriel is in control, then it literally negates everything else that's happened in the movie, because
it doesn't though, because it's all about how it's Gabriel's arc instead, but we're seeing it from her point of view, which is why it doesn't matter. It's like Huck Finn. The whole story is about the slave, Jim, but it's a confusing fucking story at the end, and the end just falls apart because it's all told from Huck's point of view. And so you get this convoluted ending that critics have been arguing about since Mark Twain wrote it. And when you look at it through that lens, that it's actually someone else's story, and that's why the ending doesn't line up with the story, I feel the same thing here. I think the story was Gabriel's rise to taking over the body finally. And because it literally starts with him being awakened. Well, it starts with him being out and then he's put under. But then in the present, it starts with him being awakened. And it goes until he wins. But we don't get to see that because that's not the point of view we're watching it through.
I am very scared. You know how like sometimes as a writer, you'll write something and you'll be like, I had a blue drinks bottle. And you just like the color blue. So you wrote, I had a blue drinks bottle. And then somebody will read it and they'll be like, oh my God, blue is the color of the sky. And the sky is like symbolic of her consciousness. And like, did you mean this with that? And you're literally like, no, I just wrote a blue bottle in because I like blue. I feel like that's what's going on here. I think he just made a fucking movie because he wanted to have fun. And I genuinely don't see the complexity. Like,
Well, I was going to say in that case, then we are all the puppets because you've got a film that has made people pretty divisive. No. I'm not trying to be funny about this. What I'm saying is, if you want to go with the puppet theme, as James was pointing out, we then all become the puppets because with this film being relatively divisive or polarizing, you have people arguing over that stuff. So I'm sure he's sitting there just like, it just meant blue, you stupid motherfuckers.
Exactly. And this stupid British lady just paid £13 to watch it. Like, that's what I think's going on.
Hey, Don, how much was it on Amazon?
I had it on HBO Max, so it was free.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, same.
Gemma cries in British.
Literally couldn't remember what I watched it on, but I'm pretty sure it was HBO Max now that you mentioned it.
Well, I mean, it's free because I'm already paying for HBO.
Yeah,
so
exactly. But if
Or
it's the
are
only
you?
thing you watch this month, no.
Maybe Gabriel's paying. Like maybe it's all.
Whoa.
Maybe this is all a giant construct.
First
and-
off, that's not the name of the person in my head. Okay, it's not Gabriel. Okay?
See, that's the point I was going to make. Is there significance to the name Gabriel? Because me being the biblical scholar that I am, I thought of the archangel Gabriel and how he's sort of God's messenger, but he's also
voice
sort
of
of
God.
God's strength, God's sort of there to do God's bidding. So are there allusions there to Gabriel really being there to serve Maddie, or is he as twisted as James says?
And who named him Gabriel? Was it the doctors? The mom? Who named
reckon
this
that
thing
the
Gabriel?
mom, didn't it? Because when the birth mum sees him in the hospital room at the end, doesn't she call him Gabriel?
Oh yeah, she does. She apologizes to him.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, I literally gave you away because you
But then
were
again,
ugly.
maybe the mom was very religious. I mean, that could be.
It doesn't like.
Well,
I'm
isn't
not
there
a
a-
Sorry, I
religious
gave you to the
person.
doctor. I was so impressed by her awards. I thought she knew what to do.
You
They
were
so
an award.
shiny and pointy. But like, doesn't the Bible kind of? I don't know much about it, but doesn't it try and teach like compassion and caring for people no matter what? And like, oh my
Some
god,
bits.
my
Oh, Jim, I can't wait for you to come to America.
I am very.
Not in the
I
Old
am-
Testament, lady.
Oh my god, I'm prepared to have my eyes well and truly open. But like, just the idea of giving away a defunct child, it just. I only ordered one. I don't know. It made me chuckle.
I guess that's the other thing, though, is it wasn't just like a defunct child. Like Gabriel has superpowers, like super strength, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't really explain where any of that comes from. So maybe there is a biblical aspect to it.
And why does he talk on the radio? I don't understand. Like, if he can
Yeah, it
control
doesn't really
her
explain that.
brain,
It's like electrical frequency stuff.
like if
I
he
can
can
actually
control her
explain that.
brain, yeah, but why doesn't he just use her to talk to, like, or talk into her head?
Yeah, how do you call him on the cell phone?
Yeah. And also,
detective.
why does no one in this movie have a phone case? It fucking drove me nuts. Like, I had a brand new phone and I put
Oh,
a case on that. Like, yeah. Only psychopaths don't have cases on their phones. Like, that's genuinely. Well, maybe she didn't have a phone case, so she was a psychopath. Maybe that's.
I
Is
have a basket case.
Ooh.
I do have a case for my baskets, though.
Gabriel talks on the radio because he's a middle-aged white guy and he was given a podcast. So
Welcome to the Gabriel Hour, where we talk about who I killed today with a pointy award.
I didn't. Speaking of white guys on microphones, I was not happy with the voice they gave Gabriel. I thought that's another thing that was too on the nose. They could have done some really cool effects with his voice instead of just having a guy talk like this. I'm Gabriel. It could have been. They could have done so
Can you
much
do?
better.
Can you do it again? Please do it again.
I'm Gabriel, Gemma. I'm coming for your neck.
It was weird how he started every conversation by saying, "I'm Gabriel." Like, that was really weird to me.
Just in case the dumbass audience isn't sure, like, here's some exposition.
Is that him?
hey, but my mom does
Bible
that when
thing.
she leaves me messages. She's always like, James,
My
this is your
mom
mother.
does.
And then at the
I
end she'll be
know.
like, this is your mom. And I'm like,
My
no
mum
shit.
does the same. Except my mum's quite a lot ruder about it. She's like, Gemma, it's mum. Why haven't you called me in 3 days? I'm like, because it was only 3 days ago.
I would have loved if when he called the cell phone of the detectives, if it like popped up and it just said Gabriel and he had like a profile picture and everything. You know?
His Twitter handle.
Yeah.
With his dog
Somebody
food face.
Somebody logs into Facebook and he's a suggested friend.
I will say, I do think
Ignore.
his face was genuinely creepy. Like the idea
It
of a
was
brain
very
with teeth
good.
was real creepy.
Yeah, the prosthetics were awesome, I thought,
Yeah.
actually. And the actor who portrayed Gabriel. That was very cool and very enjoyable. And at that point where he's revealed, I was like, I think I waited like an hour. I was like, oh, okay, I'm finally on board, because I couldn't stop grinning at that bit. It did genuinely make me chuckle. It was cool. What's the American way of saying it? Gnarly.
Okay, again, what
century
are we in?
Is that not what you use? The word
No one
gnarly?
says that anymore.
Don't they? Oh, is that very 2008?
That is very 1988.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, I was only 6.
So this is very specific, but this is all I could, like, the first time I watched it, all I could think of is, do you guys remember, did anyone here listen to A Perfect Circle? Any Tool fans? Maynard James Keenan, anyone? No? Okay. Well, the lead singer.
I went to his winery once.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Actually, I want to go there. There was a music video back in the day of Judith, this big song that was a big hubbub here. And like in the music video, he just has like this really long, dark wig. And that's every time I saw Gabriel, it's all I could think of was Maynard James Keenan. And that's my story.
Thank you for sharing. But...
Well, I assumed with 4 other people, someone else here would like A Perfect Circle, but that's my life.
I'm more of a rectangle kind of girl, really.
I just pulled it up on Google Images, and yeah, I definitely see this. I see where you're going with this.
Right?
That's hilarious. This episode is not brought to you by his winery in Jerome, Arizona, but you should go there anyway. Also,
is it Arizona Stronghold? Is that what it's called?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't remember. Yeah, that sounds right though.
I've been wanting to go there before.
It's a cool town too. Got a haunted asylum, all kinds of good stuff.
Ooh.
Jesus.
All right, if you don't mind, I'm going to bring it back to CST Winnie again, because unlike Gemma, I actually did like her, because I thought it was a dumb character. I thought it was funny, and not so much for the whole. Aren't we all, with the whole finding our pair, but the part where Gabriel is just wreaking havoc in the jail and the police department, which, by the way, I don't know why in movies like police departments look so nice. But
God,
for some reason,
ceilings. I don't get it.
Yeah, they make them look just. It's like, wow, I wouldn't mind you guys beating me up and taking me here. So anyway, so
that's how Don made a bunch of white people laugh at that joke.
The part where like all hell is breaking loose, right? I was going to say Sergeant Rhonda, Detective Rhonda, whatever her name was. It's like, who's, oh, we're getting shot at. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And
I made a specific note in my notes at that point that like those detectives were so fucking resilient. At the point that they're all being shot at, I would be like, do you know what? I think I'm owed like a few days vacation. I might just
I'm
go,
sorry, vacation?
Go now.
Is that a British thing?
Holiday. Although
No,
you don't get a holiday, do you, over there? Not really.
No.
You get like one day a year.
We get docked pay for that day, though.
Yeah, you do.
Do you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and if you work for Amazon, you get voluntary time off, which means that if all your work is done for the day, you can leave early, but you don't get paid.
That's fun.
Yeah, but no, when Winnie like comes out of her office or wherever she was, and she walks up to Detective Rhonda, she sees her, and then she's like, "Oh, Kikio," and she like immediately like jumps over her to like check on him, and then grabs the phone, and she's like, "Why am I calling the police?" And Kikio or Kikoa like corrects her, is like, call the paramedics. It's like that almost added a bit of realism. If somebody would be so panicked, they would automatically like, "Oh, I need to call the police," and oh shit,
I am the police.
All this traumatic stuff is going on here. I need to call somebody else. But yeah, it's still weird. Like all the stuff that took place, and yeah, there is no one that followed Emily all the way back to the home with Gabriel, where they had their showdown. Which, by the way, like the mom, the adopted mom, I didn't think about this the first time I watched it, but I definitely wrote it down this viewing. Why did it take them so long, aside from checking for head injuries and all this other stuff? Why did it take anybody so long for like oh, let's go tell mom what's been going on. Let's go check in with her. Maybe there's something we need to uncover about your past. And she had a complete I knew this day would come type presentation.
Hiding in the creamery. I'll be in the creamery when that moment comes, okay? Just doing a random talk.
She rolled up in the wheelchair. I was expecting her to pull a cigarette out for extra dramatic effect. The wheels would have squeaked a little bit with it being a James Wan movie. They would have squeaked. Mm-hmm. She would have, taken a drag from the cigarette and I've been waiting for you kids to come talk to me about this. I knew this day would come, but I didn't know it would come like this.
I'm just getting sucked into CST Winnie's IMDb profile. Her real name is Ingrid Bisu. Mm-hmm. She was born in Bucharest, and she attended the prestigious German college Goethe. There, besides the basic German language, she also studied English, French, and Latin. So she can speak 5 different fucking languages. She's drop dead gorgeous in real life. And that was the character that they gave her. I'm cross.
So what you're saying is that you really don't like the casting director in this film.
I don't get it. The other chick was in The Mummy Returns. It was the biggest fucking movie of my era. Everyone in the world was in love with her. They could have done so many cool things with her character. I'm very unimpressed. I feel like the women in this film have been short-shifted a little bit. Short-shrifted, not shifted. Can I tell you the other thought that I had as well when the brain thing happened at the back of her head? And initially it looked a bit vagina-y, and then I had a proper Quagmire moment. Just my brain went off and giggity. The only other note that I've got in my notes that I haven't crossed off yet was about 25 minutes into this movie when I knew there was a twist. I wrote in capital letters, "Is the twist that the film is shit?"
Oh my God.
Terrible.
And then later on I wrote, okay, no, this bit's actually amazing. So it did redeem itself towards the end. But no, my notes are all done.
Please send all hate tweets to Gemma Amor.
No, please don't. I'm having a hard time with the foot fetish tweets, to be honest with you. I don't have any more
Send
time
the hate tweets
left
to me. I live for it.
You do. You like that kind of stuff. I hate conflict.
I do. I just think it's funny what people complain about, because it's never it's never I offended somebody and it was some horrible thing. It's always some little tiny thing that I would have never thought of. So I don't know.
Manufactured outrage. Cool, right. Happy days.
So did have any of you ever had an imaginary friend? Or I'm assuming that you don't have one anymore. It's gone. But if you still got one.
I don't even have any real fucking friends. I didn't have an imaginary friend.
I was waiting for James to say that one.
Yeah, I had one when I was a kid. I had an imaginary friend.
Did you?
His name was Mr. Green. He lived in my basement.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
That's all I remember.
Is that real?
I really did, yeah.
Mr. Greenie.
Come down and play with me, Brandon.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Green.
It sounded like you smoked constantly.
He's smoking now. He's got a giant cigar in one hand. So, Mr. Green, how old were you?
Oh, I must have been
18.
It's just last week.
27. It was definitely before I was 11. So yeah, up until probably about 10 years old, maybe 7 to 10, somewhere around there.
God, that's how did that
from memory? All I can remember, I think he kind of looked like Drop Dead Fred. that might be where I got it from. Just the whole green suit kind of thing.
Wow. And what did you play with him or talk to him, or was he just there kind of hanging out?
I don't really. I think I remember playing with toys in my basement and just thinking I was playing with this Mr. Green.
Why were you in your basement playing with toys? Is this an American thing?
It was a bi-level house, so our basement was like the big playroom.
Oh my goodness!
You guys don't have those over there, I don't think.
That's where the creamery was.
There was a secret door that led to the creamery.
I was just down there one day churning butter, and then Mr. Greenie turned up.
Oh my! I didn't have imaginary friends exactly, but I was an only child who was highly ignored. And so like I would play board games with my stuffed animals and I would make them talk to me and I always won because they made terrible decisions.
Oh, they were terrible.
And so I feel like that's like borderline imaginary friend, except it has, like a physical body I can look at while I churn my butter.
I've got an amazing horror movie in mind where all of your really disgruntled toys come back when you're like the age that you are now, and they're like, "Excuse me, we're really pissed at you." No, I think I take things too literally. I didn't have any imaginary friends. I did have, because it was the 80s, and in the 1980s when I was a kid, colors were like fucking primary colors was the thing, right? Like everything had to be black or red or white or blue or some fucking 80s shit. And my mum decorated my room in all of these garish colors, and the finishing, the pièce de résistance on the wall of my bedroom were a pair of ceramic theater masks, happy face, sad face. But they were what's the clown with the diamond makeup? Pierrot? Is that, the white face clown with the black diamonds on its eyes, and it looks really fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm. I know who you mean, but I don't know his name. Yeah,
I think it's Pierrot. I'm not sure.
I think it's the clown.
Yeah, makes me sad. There were these ceramic masks, and they had, they were black and white and red because it was the 80s. They had empty eye sockets. And they were fucking creepy theatre masks that were also clown faces, and they hung on my wall, and I hated them with such a passion, and I was so convinced that the eyes were real and that they would follow me around everywhere that I used to crawl around on my hands and knees to avoid the line of sight. And every time I took them down by like throwing a blanket on them and taking them down, my mum would put them back up the next day. So does that count? That's not really the same thing.
No, I think that is. I think that we always we borderline make fun of imaginary friends, right? But I think we all had imaginary enemies, like these weird things that we're scared of, or like a ghost we think might be somewhere or stuff like that. So I propose that we all start thinking about imaginary enemies and meet back here. No, no, I was, as you were saying that, I was like, there were so many things that I was terrified of that I thought were real, that there's no way they were real, and like, I couldn't go into my parents' basement without, like, when I would leave and come upstairs, you had to turn the light off before you went up the stairs. And so I would flick it and run up the stairs as fast as I could, because I was convinced that whatever it was that lived down there was coming for me. And I'm not a fast runner, so if it was real, it would have gotten me. So it must have been imaginary. That's the point of my story.
The whole basement thing just blows my mind. Like, I just thinking about you guys with this fucking space at the bottom of your house, subterranean shit. Like, it's such a weird concept to me, because houses here generally, unless they're really, really old, or you're very wealthy and you have like a wine cellar or something, like, we don't tend to have basements, and it's just like a whole level of architecture that I'm not used to at all. I would hate the idea of having that under my house, like just big empty.
We have tornadoes.
Yeah,
you gotta get underground.
I guess so. Is that why? Is that why you all have basements?
I don't know.
It's also just American excess. We have to have more stuff to hold all of our stuff.
Well, as a guy who's never had a basement in any home he's lived in.
Did you know what I mean then? So
they look at the house and they think, well, we could make it taller, but that seems expensive. So why don't we just make it lower into the ground and just
dig a hole,
put rooms down there?
Where are you right now, Brandon?
I'm in my basement.
As am I.
You're in Brandon's basement? That's awesome.
Are you? Goodness.
Oh, you guys, I'm in the attic.
Mr. Greenie. Mr. Greenie and I getting to know each other.
I'm still at the creamery, but I can come over later.
Mr. Greenie, stop.
This doesn't really pertain to much, but the whole basement conversation, I have the best basement story ever if you guys want to hear it.
Yes.
And it deals with horror. It all connects full circle. So I have my youngest brother is 12 years younger than me. And in our old house, it was like a full ranch house. So the basement was the full length of the house. It was this huge basement.
Ooh.
But 1/3 of it was sectioned off by 2 doorways. That's where like the utility room was for, washer and dryer and everything. My little brother at the time must have been like 7 years old. And our basement was really creepy, really dark, really scary. And I dared him to go sit at the bottom of the staircase for 5 minutes in the dark. And because he was like, he wanted to do something crazy and he wanted me to dare him to do something. So I said, go sit down there for 5 minutes by yourself in the dark. And so while he was sitting at the bottom of the staircase, our bathroom had a laundry chute that could, drop the clothes down to the washer and dryer area. So
like Haunting of Hill House. Like the Haunting of Hill House, they have a laundry chute. Is that real? Is that a real thing? Wow.
Some houses have them.
So
Wow.
I lowered myself down through the laundry chute. So now I'm in the basement with him on this other third that's sectioned off. And I know he's sitting there. And I just took a little ball, and because he always told me there was a haunted like dead kid that lived in the basement. And I rolled the ball out from my side of the basement. So he just saw this tennis ball like roll across, and I could hear him go and like gasp. And then so I sprinted at him from the other door. Like I just ran full speed at him. And in a horror movie, when someone does that really exaggerated, like they're turning and their jaw like wobbles all around because they're so scared.
That's horrible. You horrible man.
That's the face he made. And it might be the proudest moment of my whole life is that I scared him that badly.
That reminds me of the first time I ever saw Ringu. Is it Ringu, the Japanese version? Ringu.
Yes, correct.
And then it was on DVD, and I was in my partner at the time's house, and on the DVD extras, you could watch the cursed video, right? So we watched the whole movie, and I got really scared because it's a fucking scary movie. And then I watched the extras and watched the actual cursed video. And then what I didn't realize was that my partner's brother had snuck next door while I was watching it. And we finished watching the cursed video, and then the phone on the fucking table right next to me started to ring. And I have never been so scared in my entire life. Like, well, I have. But it was like one of those absolute bowel-moving moments. And he was so pleased with himself.
Oh, God.
I love that.
Don, do you have any stories like that?
No. I had a very abnormal childhood, so of course I would not have an imaginary friend.
Jeez.
I'll give Mr.
I had imaginary girlfriends. She goes to a different school.
She doesn't go here.
She's actually European, by the way. She's European.
I've heard bad things about Europeans. Terrible people. Awful. British people particularly, except we're not European anymore. So thanks for that. Thanks for rubbing salt in my wound. I'm really glad you reminded me.
Yeah, like I'm the one who voted for it.
I'm so sad. I'm not European anymore. I have to fucking get a stamp in my passport now to go somewhere in Europe. It sucks. I know this is a very first world problem, but I'm actually genuinely quite sad. It's a big part of my identity. Anyway,
we don't know what that's like because we only like travel state to state. Nobody's ever been anywhere, and no, I'm just kidding.
I'm not prepared for America, am I? Am I gonna have my?
Can you please live tweet every single thought you have about Americans? I don't care if you just private message it all to me.
No.
The greatest thing I've ever read.
I want in on it.
We'll start a group chat, and you can just tell us all the horrible things that you think about America, and we'll just be sitting here like, yeah, I agree with that. Oh yeah.
To be fair,
I promise. When you were with us, I can't speak for James. I'm not going to bullshit you about anything. I'm not going to point to a cow and say, "Oh yeah, we actually don't call those cows here. We call those extra large dogs." I'm not going to bullshit with you about any of that stuff. Like if you ask me,
why did you just put that in Brandon's head? Why? Because he's going to do that now.
No, because somebody will do that. So
the important thing, as long as you remember that Americans greet each other the same way dogs do, you'll be fine.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sniffing anybody's crotch. Thank you. I charge for that shit. Thursday nights only.
Yes, but you won't sell feet pics. That's weird.
Because feet are just like a whole new level of intimacy that I just don't spoil it. It's been such a nice evening.
I've been overweight so long, I don't even know if I have feet. So,
oh my god,
you do have feet, James, because otherwise you would fall over, like you just wouldn't be able to stand up.
You may not know this, but weebles wobble; they don't fall down. All right, so if nobody has anything else,
they also have giant magnets in their bums. So unless you've been to the same hospital that Malignant went to, then
she won an award.
Wait,
for that
you bring up a very good point. Why the hell would they demagnetize that head? They take away his electrical charge. You could use an EMP. I mean, they could have done so many things. They could have possibly used one of those defibrillator things to like shock him out of there. Oh my god, I'm finding solutions to this now.
Well, they did electroshock and it got worse.
No, the electroshock was different. I'm talking about you actually turn the amps up all the way on a defibrillator, okay? Because the voltage, the ampage or whatever is higher than it is for electroshock therapy. I don't know. Just a thought.
Well, yeah. Oh, you guys talked about pushing the brain back in, and they totally put a line in like, if we take this out, it'll affect her brain as well, and blah, 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 blah. And I just feel like it would have been such a much better moment if they were just lazy. And they're like, that's fine. And just like pushed it in.
Hanging out.
Like, I think that would be so much more realistic. I don't know. That would be really funny to me.
No, they would have asked if her insurance covered it first.
That would be great. Sorry, Blue Cross doesn't cover that. So push. Yeah.
You're on state aid, ma'am.
Oh my.
None of this means anything to me.
Be glad. Be so
my taxes cover healthcare. Which so far.
Well, then how do you get giant war bombers that can drop like 27 nukes at once? That's weird.
James.
Anyway, so if nobody has anything else about this film, let's go to movie recommendations.
I have one more thing about this film.
Do you? Excellent.
I still don't know what the fuck it is. And I think that's the thing that's annoying me more than anything else is, what is this film? What is this? What is this film? Right? What is it? It just really, it defies like description in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still, I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy, boys. I'm really not.
Just a new giallo genre. Embrace it.
Don't worry, there will be copycats.
Yeah, but that's what worries me, right? Is there going to be a whole new subgenre of like, what would you call this? Like camp splatter punk? What is it? I don't even know what it is. I just, yeah.
In fairness, camp splatterpunk seems like something I would have written.
I'd love that.
Anyway, yeah. All right. Does anybody else have anything else before we go to movie recs?
Not I.
Good.
All right. You guys are the guests. Who wants to go first?
Brandon does.
Not me. Not me.
I've
been trying to think of a movie recommendation. I can't.
This is Mr. Green. Mr. Green is telling you to go, Brandon.
I just lost my shit.
I honestly don't know. I've tried to think of what movies make me think of this, but it's so different that like the only thing I could think of is like something maybe like Sleepaway Camp or something. Like I honestly don't know.
Yeah. No, I had a really hard time with this myself, so I was kind of curious if you guys had anything. And I think part of the problem is that we do if you liked this, what should you watch? And
yeah, no, none of us actually really liked it that much.
So that defeated it.
You did like it. You're just being contrary because you like liking things that other people don't like.
No, I just like liking things.
Also, what made me really laugh about David using Mr. Greeny's voice is that the Zoom settings have got David's profile picture, so it came up really big at the point at which he said it, and it just fucking ruined me.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
My two recommendations were obviously Basket Case, because it's the closest thing I can think of to this film. But also I got real Jack Frost vibes from just how fucking silly it was, and the snowman serial killer kind of shit, like radioactive sludge snowman, isn't he? That was that gave off very similar energy to me. If you like that, then you'll probably like this.
I couldn't come up with anything. I usually do a double feature kind of thing, and what I think would work well with this, and I have no fucking idea. and so if I'm just gonna throw out weird James Wan shit that makes you go, what the fuck did I just watch? I'm gonna go with Dead Silence, because Dead Silence is, I don't know, it's the same kind of thing. It's one of those movies that people either really like, or they're like, why the fuck did you make me watch that movie? So I think Dead Silence. Don, what do you got?
All right. I guess I was the one who didn't have a problem finding something.
72 movies coming
72. Up. Come on. That's a stretch.
372 movies coming up.
All right. I went with
he's just finished his thesis. He's got nothing else to do.
I went with thesis. I went with different elements from the film. So I've got What Lies Beneath, The Empty Man, Demonic, Dark and the Wicked, Lights Out, Sinister, The Grudge. I would have had Ring, but somebody mentioned Ringu, so we'll go there. It Follows, Insidious, Silent Hill, and Orphan.
Are you just listing horror movies, Don?
No,
that's what he does.
Is that what you're doing right now? You're just listing horror movies.
Would you like some rationale as to why? What Lies Beneath?
No, please don't.
Okay.
No, I will say your list actually.
Are you just mentioning What Lies Beneath because Michelle Pfeiffer's in it? Isn't it? And
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Jesus Christ. Like, I just... Give me a break, Don. Come on.
Love you, Gemma.
She's going to take out a restraining order on you soon.
She probably already has.
Why would she do that? She's my imaginary girlfriend. She goes to a different school.
His next book is called Your Necks. And it's Necks.
I'm just trying to figure out how James and Josh were the ones that talked about it so much.
Josh.
But I'm the one who's getting blamed for it.
That's just how life works.
There seems to be a racial component to this, James.
Oh no.
The difference between us is I own what I said and you try to get out of it even though it's on tape.
Why did you say own after I brought up race, James? Wow. Thought we were cool, man. What's going on?
Oh my God.
This is what I put up with every day.
Oh, this is what you put up with. Okay, let's go back and look at the other episodes.
I need an adult.
There are none. The adults are dead.
No, there are definitely no adults here.
What's the point of being an adult anymore? But yeah, that's what I've got.
So you basically just listed every horror movie ever made, and then you said you could watch these.
Gemma, I was going to go out drinking with you at the Stokers, but you know what? Those plans are canceled.
It's fine. Me and Mr. Greenie have got a hot date anyway. A glass of heaven.
Why do I be honest on these shows?
I don't know why.
If it helps, I also have an imaginary date that night.
Why make yourself vulnerable? Hey, it's not like I couldn't get a real date if I wanted one. Except that I'm married and I couldn't. You imagine me on a date with anybody.
Look, I imagine you at one of the bars drinking and the British accent comes out and all these creepers are going to be like, is that the one with the feet?
Oh God, just don't. I'm not wearing. I was going to wear open-toed sandals as well, which I actually genuinely was, and I might rethink as a strategy now. Oh.
I'm telling you, Gemma, you're going to make some money while you're here.
Steel toe caps.
Even then.
Wow.
I would say this is degenerated, but I feel like we've been here the whole time.
No, this is
it's come full circle now. It's come full circle now.
All right. So speaking of full circle, let's bring it back to you three and where people can find you on social media, listen to No Sleep Podcast, check out your music, or buy your books, depending on who you are.
You can find the No Sleep Podcast at thenosleeppodcast.com, and on most social media platforms, we are at No Sleep Podcast. And if you go to the nosleeppodcast.com and check out the About section, you'll see all our contributors. And so you can find our personal Twitter pages and, all our social media and our OnlyFans page and stuff like that. So that's the easiest way to find us. And,
Sweet.
Of course, we're available on all No, what am I supposed to say? You can find us wherever you get your podcasts.
You're a bit rusty, David.
I am.
That's not how Gabriel sounded.
Maybe we can make it happen in post. We'll just
Yeah, you have to do it all over.
until it
You have
works.
to do it all over again in Mr. Greeny's voice, please. I don't accept anything else now.
Or Brandon.
Don't feel sorry for him. He's dead inside.
Speaking of being
I think
dead
we're all going
inside,
to
you
need imaginary friends after this episode. Oh my God.
Oh, we're not friends. Whoever told you that was lying.
No, we're going to need imaginary friends just to help build back our egos and our self-esteem. Gemma, jeez.
I told you I don't even have real life friends. How on earth would I interact with an imaginary one? Sorry, Brandon, I interrupted you. It was terribly rude of me. It won't happen again. I'm really sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it won't happen again. You can find all of my stuff under my name, Brandon Boone, on all my music's on Spotify or my Bandcamp, brandonboone.bandcamp.com. I have all the music from the No Sleep podcast that I've written up there. There's over 1,500 albums. It's too much. And you can find me on social media, Brandon Boone Music on Instagram and at Wondrous Sound on Twitter.
Cool. Gemma, that leaves you.
I was also going to add to that. Brandon's just released a new album because he's really crap and he doesn't tell people these things when he comes on these shows. He did the music for the critically acclaimed, award-winning story horror book video game Scarlet Hollow, which is incredible, and the music for that is banging. And the album's out now, so you should go and listen to that because it's some of his best work. You can find me, as I always say, because I am a one-trick pony. I am liberally splattered all over the internet, in many very different places. My pictures of my feet probably floating around in the ether. If you type my name into Google, I'm there. Buy my books because some of them are all right. They're all on Amazon, and at some point they might even be in genuine bricks and mortar bookshops, which is very exciting. So yeah, keep an eye out.
Very cool. All right. So I guess that wraps it up for another week. Thank you all for coming on today. I had a blast, and hopefully you did as well. And to anybody who's listening for the first time, our other episodes probably aren't this fun, but check out a couple anyway.
And Mr. Greeny, if you're out there, call me.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm never talking again. This is it. This is the last of it.
Well, one can only dream.
Oh, man. All right. That wraps it up for this week. As always, I am James Sabata.
And friends, how many of us have them? Friends.
Jesus Christ, what is
the ones
happening?
you can depend on. Friends. No?
This is why we don't use video when we record, because if you saw my face right now. Anyway, we'll see you next week here at thenecronama.com.